What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Pull Up Experience. We have another amazing, great, powerful episode for you guys. We have the one and only Miss Julia D.
Hey, welcome.
We're going to hear more about her story, about her journey, and just learn more about her amazing business, okay? We got Miss Brittany with us tonight.
Hey, y'all.
We got Steve in the building tonight. You got Michelle Louise over in the corner over here. And we know it's gonna be a great night, y'all. So, Miss Dean, I have a question for you. Cleveland born and raised?
Houston born and raised, technically. Whoa. I'm a transplant, but I've been here long enough, though. I came here 4th grade, about 10 or so. Okay. Yeah, so I've been here for a majority of my life. Right. I'm between 2 cities, but go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Do you travel back to Texas quite often?
I do. Yeah. My dad's family is down in Houston, so I travel back there quite frequently. So yeah.
Okay. So growing up in Cleveland, what part of the city did you grow up on when you came here?
So we came here. We got hustled around a little bit, but East Cleveland graduated from the Grace Shaw High School. Best talent in the city. Best talent in the city. And I do mean that too as well. It was a great education. I will say a lot of my peers too are very talented in what they do in the community and things of that sort. And East Cleveland is just a community-oriented city. You know, I really love that about it. It's very community-oriented. We're the only high school that has an all-class reunion every single year. And people, we do it. So, I mean, we're about community. I'm not just saying that. And I really do enjoy that. So that'll kind of segue into some reasons why I love Cleveland, why I stayed in Cleveland. I love the city. I love the community. It's been great to me. So I wanted to leave.
Come on now, it's Cleveland.
Can't say never because, you know, knock on wood.
Knock on wood. And like I said, shout out to EC, like I said, it is a very vital part of the city as a whole. I know it has this, like I said, negative commentary people say about it, but what you cannot say about it is that it is a staple in the city overall. So you can't say Cleveland out, Cleveland. So growing up, I know, like you said, like you came to Cleveland. What was the circumstance that you had to travel from Houston to Cleveland?
Yeah, I think a fun story was our parents divorced. So my mom's side of the family is in the Cleveland area for the most part. I actually have a very interesting history. So I'm Liberian. I don't think a lot of people know what that means. On my dad's side, they're indigenous from, you know, the west coast of Africa. And then on my mom's side, they were slaves around the north. So this is where our family roots are here. So after, you know, Civil War, we were freed. My mom's family was like, okay, we're going to go somewhere else and start establishing that root. So that's kind of where, you know, my kind of like mindset is in terms of like, okay, I'm going to go and figure it out and do my thing. And then they kind of kept coming back and forth over the Atlantic. And then ultimately, Liberia had a civil war in 1992. So we were, you know, we kind of had to pull back over here real quickly because there was a lot of fighting going on. So came back and, you know, we have our roots back here in the Cleveland area. But we've always been in the north. My mom's side of the family, at least, always been in the north around the Kentucky, Tennessee area, Ohio area. And then my dad, he's first generation. And like I said, he's indigenous. So they settled in the Houston area. So there's a high population of like Liberians, Nigerians, and other types of folks from the diaspora out there in Houston for sure.
I did not know.
Yeah, so that's a romantic story. People always ask me that. I'm like, well, my parents divorced. My mom came up to her family. You know how that kind of works. My dad stayed there with his family for the most part. So yeah. Okay,
got you. So when growing up, let me ask you this: East Cleveland, you always had aspirations of being an entrepreneur in a certain aspect. Let me ask you, what was your aspiration growing up?
I don't think I have any aspirations. True story. I didn't know what I wanted to be probably until maybe 10 or so years ago. And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Everybody has their own different journey in life. Like, you know, trying to say, hey, I knew this at this age, or I knew I wanted to be. Everybody knows what they want to be. A lot of it is, you know, your parents or people in the community tell you should be this. And then you have your life experiences, you find yourself, and then you discover where you really want to be. So I'm owning that journey. But yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. But I did get some really good skills. So all these skills just kind of travel with me throughout my journey. That's what I will say. So yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Give Julia a couple of these. Cause I love you were being authentic and saying I didn't know. And I think a lot of people try to portray like they had it figured out, like you said, since a young age. When a lot of us, I promise you, I didn't know anything about podcasting. I don't know what is podcasting. Like, what are these things or whatnot. But I love the fact that gradually, and like I said, not saying you stumbled upon it, but you came into it.
Yeah. I mean, life is a journey. I mean, who could really say at what, 10, 18? I mean, we're all knuckleheads. We're all doing dumb-ish, right? Like, who could really sit down and say, I mean, some people know what they want to do, but, and that's great for them. Some people don't, and that's also fine too as well. Like, and people start getting to those benchmarks at 30 and they feel like, oh, I should be here. I'm not here, or something of that sort. And they start judging themselves. They're comparing themselves to other folks, and that's, comparison is a thief of joy. What is it? Comparison is a thief of joy, right? That's how they say it. So that's what that's where you got, right? So.
No, I got you. So let me ask you this: with that, and when you said skill, I was thinking about taking like I have a certain set of skills and all that. Come out of high school, what were the plans in high school? I know college was obviously in the plans. What did you major in going into college?
I majored in chemistry, and like I said, I was like a product of not really knowing what I wanted to do. I was good at math, I was good at science or whatever, right? Really and truly, I was just good at solving problems, right? And that's really kind of what I evolved into, right? I'm really good at solving problems, really hard problems. People be throwing their problems my way, and I got to figure it out. And so that's why I kind of evolved, right? I have that skill set of solving a problem, right? And that's a very critical skill set to have, I would say, or not necessarily critical, but valuable skill set to have in life, right? You can do anything if you know how to solve problems. So I think that, so it didn't matter what I was going to do. I think when I go back to asking your question, I think at a young age, I understood my purpose, and people ask me that thing. Like, I think that's very strong. I did understand I knew how to solve problems. And so then how does that translate into where I ultimately get? I have no clue, right? Like, who can see so many years or decades or so into the future? You never know, right? So.
That's good.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say, I took chemistry just because
Right. It was the random major.
It really was, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I took a chemistry class. I really enjoyed it. So that was one of the majors or something. I think I was going to do a science major. There's biology, physics, or chemistry. Really not a lot of options. Or I could have, major in math or something like that. But it just ultimately came down to, if you really look at those type of subjects, it's about solving a problem and then creating a process to solve that problem. That's really what it comes down to. So that's what I'm also really good at, creating processes and structure and things of that sort. We'll get into that a little bit more. We'll get into that a little bit more. But those are, we're starting to, start planting seeds of how I ultimately get here. And that's okay that I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what my gift was. And I kept working on that gift, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Dropping bars already.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, because how do we from chemistry to CPA? Like, how that transition go? Because I mean, I'm going back to what you're saying. Some problems you think, but how did that transition go? Because you're doing beaker, you were beat.
Beaker.
Thank you. I've been up since 5 o'clock, y'all. My bad.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're working with clients to help them with their problems as far as money.
Yeah, I mean, again, two disciplines where you solve problems. I think the difference with chemistry, number one, it's a very isolated profession, right? Like, you're kind of isolated in the lab, doing work for the most part. You're not talking to a lot of people. You're probably just working with the professor or whoever that's supervising you, maybe another researcher or something like that. A lot of, scientists are introverted, super introverted. I like to say I cosplay extrovert. I do like to be around people. I mostly love to be around myself. I'm an introvert still, but I still do like to be around people. And so that's where that kind of transition. like I was just still trying to figure stuff out. And so when I went back to school, I was like, okay, well, I think I like business because I was working with numbers a lot more. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try, this business thing out. And very, like everything that I do methodologically, I looked at it and said, okay, well, it was a recession, right? It was this 2009 housing crisis that was happening. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go back to school, spend more money, get into more debt. So I need to be able to come out and get a job with this, right? So what should I go into? And ask some folks some questions, and they were like, accounting is going to be safe at this point.
Yeah.
You can always revert back to, finance or something. Like you can translate accounting skills to finance, but it's very hard to translate from finance to accounting. And so I did really actually see that real life in my profession. And I'm glad that I kind of went that route too as well. But that's very much so true. I mean, I'm a finance person at the end of the day, but I have a foundation in accounting.
And I want to talk because a lot of people know you're also a real estate investor, and you talked about the recession. You want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, just real quick. I think I just fell upward. So I will say, God has just really blessed me on my life. A lot of times too, I just give him my problems. I'll be like, look, I can't figure this out. So I'm a problem solver, but at the end of the day, you ask for help and he will give it to you. He does help those that help themselves. And so, the unromantic thing about it is I was going through a breakup, moved out. I was looking for an apartment really. And then, one of my folks that I went to church with or whatever, they were like, hey, you should look at a condo. The market's down right now. It'll just be a lot cheaper than paying rent. I was like, okay. So I just kind of failed upward into real estate and just got into the market at a very opportunistic time. It's a funny story. That first deal, I went to go buy the place. This is the place that was in Rocky River. The person was deceased, so it was, I don't know how it came about, but the bank owned the property at this point in time. So we submitted an offer. The bank was like, no, we'll take our chances. It sat on the market. And so then it went up for auction. So I was like, our realtor came back to me. He's like, hey, go look at this property. It's for auction. This is, he walked me through what the auction process would look like, yada, yada. So I'm the only person that showed up to this auction. So it just happened to be fate, it just happened to be fate, and it just worked out well. And because it wasn't an auction, I didn't have a mortgage or anything of that sort. I'm a very frugal person. I come from a very humble beginning, no car note or anything like that. So I was literally just stacking a lot of money while I was making money in my, 20s or so for the most part. And then, then I started seeing more of the signs coming in towards the end of, the last decade or so. And then through 2021, I was like, okay, well, this market's just about to, rocket ship out of here. So everybody better try to at least get into a home or something of that sort, or multiple homes if they can. So, for me, I don't really get into real estate investing to own this large portfolio. It's really just diversifying money for the most part. So I have a couple things here and there, but I'm not really. I do. I'm not trying to have a big portfolio at all, because it's a lot to manage for the most part. So it's a lot of work. Nothing, people say, you can earn passive income, yada yada yada, or whatever. It's a fantasy. Everything's work. At the end of the day,
come on,
everything's work. You got to deal with people. You got to provide a service. You got to provide a product, and I take pride in the quality of things that I provide. So. I'm not a slumlord, so that's important to me.
No, absolutely. And once again, the fact that you are a person of many principles. Finance here, real estate here, and it all go back to making money. By the way,
right?
Managing money, making money, and then being accounting of it all.
Yeah.
So shout out to you.
Thank you.
So let me ask you this. With that being said, I said. Michelle got in my head once again because we'll talk about it after the podcast. I'm sorry, but back to the principles of making money, managing money, accounting for it. With your knowledge of being a CPA and then real estate investor, how does that correlate with overall every process that you do on a daily basis with your business now?
Oh, how does that work? I mean, again, I just solve problems, right? So I work with a lot of business owners and individuals too as well. But more so on the business side of things, you know, as entrepreneurs, we're all entrepreneurs in this room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we all know how this thing starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to figure it out. There's never a playbook for, you know, entrepreneurship. You got to figure things out all the while that you're kind of going through it. There's processes, right? There needs to be structure and processes when you're starting a business. A lot of people don't know all the ins and outs that go with setting up a business, all the risks, all the, you know, forms and everything like that. So I do have you know, business owners that are in the early stages of being founded. You know, they don't understand like, hey, there's all these different tax filings that I got to be aware of. You know, there's not just income tax, there's sales tax, there's, you know, employee taxes, right? How am I setting up employees? Am I doing contractors or am I doing employees? And based on which ones I have, am I, you know, then, you know, doing all the reporting and stuff like that too as well. So if you have a 1099 contractor, you got to file those reports. If you have employees, not only you have to pay them, you got to pay taxes, you got to pay benefits if you do have them, right? And then you also have to file the returns too as well and the withholding. So folks don't know about that, right? Inherently, I get a lot of people that come towards me. I would say I work with that'll come towards me that try to take the shortcuts, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of these things can be complicated, right? And if you take the shortcut and you figure, hey, I can just kind of DIY this thing myself. Look, the couple $100, you know, $1,000 you're going to pay for a CPA, you might as well, because like I said, having problems. I have a client 2 weeks ago, my head was hurting when they came to me. We had to figure out how to, you know, negotiate with the state of Ohio to get him on a payment plan for $150K liability. I mean, I felt for him, right? But he was trying to shortcut things. He hired a cheaper accountant. You know, they weren't really keeping up with the sales tax and things of that sort. And, you know, he got to that point, but we were able to see it through where, you know, we got him, you know, some sort of, I wouldn't say amnesty, but we got him into a good deal. Let's just put it that way, right? Where he didn't have to like fork up all that money all at once, because also one of his business license relied on, you know, being able to pay that fine off too as well. They were looking for their money like right now, right? They were like El Chapo. They wanted that money.
The government don't play.
Yeah. All these states are not playing, especially these past couple of years. And so just kind of being aware of all those things, right? And it can't get very complicated. I mean, I'm good at numbers. I'm not good with, you know, the marketing. I'm not a lawyer or anything of that sort. I readily outsource all of those things just to make sure they get done, they get done right too as well. Like I don't, you know, cut corners on any of those things. They're expensive, but you got to do what you got to do when you're first starting a business. Otherwise, those costs can just, you know, add up. I will say half of that $150K bill was just fines and penalties. Just fines and penalties. So yeah. They're not playing around. So think about it, about 80K or so, or almost 100K. I don't think you would have probably spent that much money on an accountant or a CPA over the time, right? So it's like, so that's like the takeaway I always try to tell people is like, yeah, you know, you could DIY. Some things are not great DIYing. Let's just put it that way, right? Some things are not just great DIYing, right? Maybe a paint job, but probably not plumbing. What we talk about? Probably not plumbing.
Right.
So yeah.
Let me ask you, with that being said, what do you feel like are the biggest? So let's say we are all, let's say we're all entrepreneurs. In this room. What do you feel like are some of the common mistakes people tend to try to DIY themselves that are easily avoidable? That a CPA can help them with. They should do themselves.
I would say you're trying to DIY something that requires a degree, a 4-year degree, 5 years technically, plus sitting for an exam that, you know, only 10% of folks pass the first time. You know, that on average takes about 18 months to 2 years to even pass, right? You're trying to DIY that, right? I don't know how to explain it. I can't answer that question of how could they avoid or, you know, make it better. I mean, you're trying to DIY that, right?
You put that process.
And I'm not saying that to like sell things. I mean, there are some businesses that are very simple, right? But then let's kind of think about it, right? If you're operating a very simple business, chances are you're not driving revenue, right? And our firm works with businesses that are looking to scale and grow. That's what our SUIG, people always ask me, how do you pronounce it? It's just SUIG, right? It stands for scale up and then investment group, right? Because we're focused on businesses that are looking to scale and grow. So if we're working with a business that's trying to get from that 6-figure mark to the 7-figure, and then 7-figure, billion to 5 million, 5 million to 10 million, 10 million to 25 million. And from there, you got the blueprint and going. Those dollars require systems. Those dollars require somebody that's knowledgeable about taxes to number one, save you taxes, but also make sure you're filing correctly and got all your bases covered too as well, right? So you can't really skim on those things. And when you really think about it, you could sit down just spinning your wheels, spending so much time thinking about that stuff. It's probably going to be cheaper for you to just I always look at things like the value of my time, right? So if I'm an entrepreneur and I can go out there and drive sales at, let's say, an average, we're making numbers here, right? My time is worth $1,000 or something like that, right? I'm just making up numbers. So I'm just making up a number. As an entrepreneur, think about the sales that you're driving on a daily basis or monthly basis. Start dividing that by hours. That's really what the value of your time is, right? Even though in your head you're not thinking, okay, I make this much money, but if you can generate that much money, that's how much your time is valued. So when I think about outsourcing things, if my time is valued at $1,000 and my CPA is probably anywhere ranging from like $250 to $500, I mean, the CPA is cheaper because the value of my time is $1,000. And then I'm going to spend more time trying to figure this out, right? Like I said, I'm really good at numbers. I'm going to spend more time trying to figure this out. Yeah. I'm going to spend more time trying to figure this out, right, than a CPA that can get it done shorter. So I always look at things that way too as well, right?
So what would you say is the most challenging that you come across in your field?
I was, man, that 150K fine was very challenging to try to navigate, man. Bro was on me to try to. He was blowing up the cell phone. Cause I give people my cell phone because if I don't want to answer, I'm not gonna answer. But he was on me, man. I had never had that much pressure applied, so that was a real stressful situation. I like challenges, I would say. The way how I kind of grew up, I just grew up having to always navigate challenges, having to always solve problems and things of that sort. So that's kind of the foundation. I kind of get like an adrenaline kick off of it. Honestly, I don't know. I know it sounds sick, but so for me, I like the challenges, but I mean, there are challenges that could be 150K. There are challenges that could be billions of dollars, right? You gotta have to sit down and figure out, right? When you really sit down and think about it. But a challenge is a challenge. I like it, and I feel like I accomplished something and I grew, and there's a takeaway there, I guess. Yeah.
That's good stuff. So, man, let's talk about the beginning when you first started out. Because how do you find your clientele? How do you find the right clientele to work with? Because I'm firmly not every client is your client, right? So I have a stinking suspicion you're like, I'm trying to find the biggest challenge I can find. But for you, let's talk about this first, that finding that first client that was like, okay, this is what I want to work with.
Yeah, I think every entrepreneur actually goes through this journey. It's a learning journey. There's not a book on it or anything like that, I would say. But finding your ideal market or client, right? Defining your market and keep refining that until you get to the formula that you want, right? And so for me, so background-wise, we didn't go into this, but, I came out of Big Four, a large global firm. So I was working with publicly traded companies, Fortune 500 companies, and things of that sort. Folks that had, companies that have revenues in the trillions or billions of dollars. And we did some pro bono work, and that was, kind of me driving our firm to do that. We did some pro bono work with minority entrepreneurs, right? And so I did see that gap in terms of I was like, this kind of sucks because my talent is in this firm, but, there's not comparable talent out there for smaller entrepreneurs. So when I came out, actually, I'll take a step back. I wasn't going to leave. I kind of got pulled out, and it was another founder that was like, you should start your own firm. I was like, I don't know how to start my firm. Like, that's not really, like I said, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And he was like, that your talent is needed, especially in a small business, entrepreneurship world too as well. So he actually helped me sit down and really think through my plan, and he gave me a lot of criticism, right? And I think that's the number one thing. you don't have to know all the answers in entrepreneurship. There are other people that, have been through it, done the work, ask questions, right? You don't have to figure everything out by yourself, so ask questions. So when I first started this, I thought that we were just going to stick with just the consulting, right? Because my background is I come from audit, I did a little bit of taxes or so, but then I spent a large amount of time in M&A or mergers and acquisition consulting, business consulting, right? So I thought that, I was just going to kind of stick with that. But then the question always came back with, okay, do you even offer the basic services, right? So yeah, I need somebody that can provide me strategy, but I still need the tax compliance. I still need tax planning. I still need somebody to help me with my financials, right? To get to this consulting space, right? Yeah. And so this is where we evolved to, okay, let's create a full service CPA firm, right? Very high quality that caters to small businesses that are looking to grow and scale, right? So we're your one-stop shop, right? For all things that you need from a financial perspective, right? And we also, serve individuals too as well that are business owners, executives, professionals too as well. So getting back to your question, right? How do I find my ideal client, right? Well, in my head, I had one answer, right? But then as I went through the entrepreneurship journey, just like everybody else does, you figure out, okay, well, really or truly, what is the problem, right? And how do I solve it? The problem wasn't, I just need consulting services. The problem is I need really good quality financial services, right? For every aspect of my journey, right? From start all the way to exit. Because the entrepreneurship cycle, right? And this is where I kind of arrived to, you're going to start a business and at some point you're going to die, retire, or pass it on, right? So how are you as a CPA or your financial partner, how am I able to help you throughout this whole journey, right? And so I was kind of focusing on this one piece where it was like, hey, I'll help you with the buying and selling, but you still need just the basics to start, right? And then as you're growing and scaling, you need that, financial partner that'll help you, with your KPIs, with your financials, tax strategy and things of that sort, and just kind of be there with you, continue to help you grow, right? Until you get to the end, right? You grow this thing up to something of value, right? And a lot of, folks, they don't have kids to pass down a business, right? To, or anything of that sort. And that's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm a CPA. I don't have anybody else in my family that's a CPA. So when I exit this thing, I got to think about, okay, I'm going to sell it to somebody else, right? And how am I creating a business here that I can easily sell to somebody else too as well at the end of the day. So I'm also thinking about those type of things. Again, going back to my origins, I'm very good at solving problems, thinking very far ahead. And so I don't just think about the now, I think 4 steps ahead with my clients. Yeah.
That's good. So with that being said, what are some, how can I say this? Because I feel like there's a young man, young woman who's watching right now who want to be CPAs. And they're like, what are some things that you learned or lessons that you learned that you wish you not learned sooner, but were impactful that you still use today?
As a CPA or?
As a CPA.
Yeah, I would say, I'm glad.
We'll do CPA. The CPAs are important. I want to put respect on that because people understand you guys are very essential too.
Yeah. And I also, we began this interview when you asked me, hey, did you figure out, how did you know what you wanted to do? I got into, accounting because it was explained to me that you're going to see all aspects of business and you can learn. Yeah. So my transitioning from, a large global CPA consulting firm into, creating my own firm too as well, I learned a lot of those things by being in the front seat of businesses, right? Like I learned a lot of things behind the scene, right? Okay, I know you need a financial function. I know you need a marketing. I know you need legal. I know you need operations, right? A lot of entrepreneurs, they may not be, have the foresight to understand all the pieces, the parts that are necessary in terms of back office. And they learn that and they start to build those type of function out. I kind of came into already understanding like, hey, I'll have to do all these things and make these investments up front, and that'll set me up for success. So I think just being a CPA is what I would say. If you don't, and that's why I love my story of you don't have to know what you want to do. You get a lot of CPAs, they kind of evolve throughout their lives. You have the highest number of entrepreneurs are CPAs, right? Because again, you're on a learning experience throughout your career journey, right? You're and you're also getting paid for it too.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, I'm getting paid to learn about businesses, and then I'll be able to take those skill sets and start businesses, or just, continue to help other businesses start and grow too as well. So that's why I would say that, and that's why I always advise younger folks, like, if you don't know what you want to do or you want to be an entrepreneur, go be an accountant first, so you understand businesses, and then you at least have that foundation, plus at least the finance piece of it, to start your own business too as well. So you know enough of, hey, I don't know this, but I need to engage this person to help me answer these questions and things like that. That's why I said, I'm happy to outsource because I know I need this, but I don't know how to do it. So
you're able to identify it and be able to, okay, this is something I need or whatnot.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing right there.
But I don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't know how to do it myself, and that's fine as long as I, know what I need to get things done. Yeah.
Now, I don't think we actually touched on this, but how did you come up with the name, or how did the name come about, I should say, for your company?
A download? No. I did know the focus was helping businesses, especially, minority, underserved businesses scale and grow. Because like I said, being at a larger firm and then doing that pro bono work, I could easily identify the disconnect in understanding, in knowledge, right, I would say, right? And most small businesses anyways, right? You understand that disconnect. So how do we help you get from, 6-figure business, like the average entrepreneur makes about 50K, right? So 6-figure is a big number, but then getting to 7 figures is like, oh my goodness, right? So how do you get to these different stages? And there's process and structures to get there, right? And folks kind of understand, hey, I'm in entrepreneurship world. I can kind of do this. I can kind of do that. I'm a creative, but as creative as you want to be, there still has to be a process and structure to doing things, right? And that's how you get from, that 250, or I would say that like 50K or so, to that 7 figures. Okay. Is setting up a process, right? And just kind of sticking to that process and being consistent with it. And things will change too as well. Like when we're defining our customer, defining our market too as well, that may refine, but then understanding there's a structure in terms of delivering the service, right? You got to deliver it with quality, right? You got to deliver it with consistency and reliability too as well. Those are all things that are going to be important regardless of what your target market is. So that's one thing I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Now, where do you see the company taking off, let's say, short term and long term?
So short term, we're a domestic CPA firm. Long term, and this is something that we'll be getting into in 2026. So a little bit of background, there's a huge shortage in accountants right now, right? It's really hard to get an accountant. Huh?
I know that.
Oh, it's a high shortage in accountants. So it's even a better time to go into the accounting industry because it's a very high shortage.
Question, is that because a lot of them are retiring?
Yeah, a lot of them are retiring. People call it the silver tsunami. So a lot of accountants are Yeah, well, the silver tsunami is the concept of there are the boomer generation show. Their population is larger than the millennial, and who are they behind us? Gen X or Gen Z?
Gen Z, yeah.
Okay, I don't pay attention to all that. But the generation behind us, right? Those individual generations, their populations are lower. So as the boomers retire and, they're passing on their businesses or selling their businesses, there's a higher supply of those than there are buyers of businesses coming in the door, right? So with the accounting profession, and there's a couple different professions that are also experiencing this too as well. Like the pilot, aviation industry, they're experiencing this with pilots, right? A lot of pilots are retiring, but there aren't enough new pilots coming into the door. In CPAs, there's a lot of CPAs retiring, but there aren't enough new CPAs coming into the door. And then I think the other thing too with CPAs is that the interest level is decreasing too as well, because a lot of the young folks, they want this consulting. I'll have people reaching out to me on LinkedIn all the time about getting into consulting. It's like, well, what's your skill sets? Because anybody can be a consultant.
Right.
You're a podcast consultant. You know what I mean? You guys are podcasters. I mean, you guys are experts in podcasting, right? If I want to start a podcast, I can go to you. You can provide me consulting services. So we can call anything consulting, really. Right. But what's your skill, right? Are you able to actually teach something to somebody? That's when you really should be going into. So these kids are going to consulting with these like fluffy degrees that, you know, at the end of the day, if you try to start your own business, like what skill set are you taking with you? Or you're trying to transition into another field, what skills are you taking from that consulting that can transition into somewhere else? It's unfortunate, but like I said, you know, go into something with like core skills. So anyway, so all that being said, where's my business going? So now that creates a problem, right? Because we don't have enough accountants in the US. How do we solve that? Offshoring some of that stuff, right? But a lot of smaller firms don't do offshoring. Number one, because you don't know what the security risk is. So somebody, you know, has to come up with a solution that addresses security, that addresses being able to, you know, bridge that gap with the language barriers or way of working and things of that sort. And a lot of smaller firms are hesitant with doing that. Now, the large global firms, they already do that, right? So I've always worked with folks all across the globe, like in India or Nigeria or the UK or France. You know, I literally have worked with people in all different types of time zones, Japan, etc. And, you know, India is a huge hub for outsourcing, but there are, you know, closer countries with outsourcing. So long term, you know, we're going to get into a journey of solving that, you know, shortage problem by, you know, helping to connect the dots in terms of offshore accountants that can help in the U.S. too as well. So that's what we're seeing ourselves. That's a really good question, but so that's a big problem. Big problems.
So let me mention that within that same vein, with the empowerment of AI. We were just literally talking about earlier, like we got some headshots. They're really incredible. I'm not gonna lie. So I love Steve and whatnot, but like they're doing it for cheaper, and they're doing it to a high level to a certain degree. Do you feel like with the advancement of AI is coming forward those jobs that no longer people want? So with that being said, where do you feel like the future of CPAs are going, considering that AI is on the heels of all our jobs?
Yeah, I don't think AI is going to replace our jobs because ChatGPT can't do math at the third grade level. So no, it really can't. I use ChatGPT a lot actually, and anything mathematical, I have to like ask it to redo it. And these are basic things, like it can't do basic multiplication.
You were beating ChatGPT in math?
Huh?
You were beating ChatGPT in
math? It's a third grader though. So that, I mean, we compare. I don't know. Don't give me a trophy for being the smartest kid on a short bus.
I'm just saying because like you're right. Because I use ChatGPT. I'm like, I'll be a person like, what word?
Yeah, but you have to like real life concept, right? I was pulling together a proposal and I just asked it because I can babble on things, right? I told you guys this. So ChatGPT has really helped me refine my babbling skills because it helps me write emails, you know, really more crisp, you know, documents and things of that sort. So I'll write something and then put it through ChatGPT. Well, I'll give it numbers. I literally gave it a rate times hours and it couldn't do the multiplication right. So that's like, we would learn multiplication in
so you
know, elementary?
Yeah, it was elementary.
Yeah, like basic math. So it's like, no, ChatGPT is not going to be like creating robots and stuff like that. No, I mean, that requires physics.
Julia. I don't know. Give it about a couple months.
We can, okay.
I'm just saying.
I see that wine is working. But, but the point I'm trying to make here is AI won't replace you, but I do think that the people who are more technology savvy will replace you in your job market, right? So, I mean, we use technology a lot so that we can do things faster, right? So I was kind of really thinking about this because one of the problems I feel like with Black CPA firms is that our rates are too low, right? So we can't compete in the broader market, right? So I'm very firm on standing on our rates. But then I also think, well, we could do things faster. So it takes us half the time, right? You know, as I've kind of gone through this journey, there are some very old school folks that may charge half the rate, but because they're doing everything on paper, it takes them twice the amount of time. So you're paying the same amount at the end of the day. Then if you have somebody that's just billing you higher that can get something that requires another firm 2 hours, now I can do it in 1 hour. So by using technology to do it, right? So I think that'll replace folks. Well, so then what does that mean for us? Well, we just double our capacity, right? So that just means we can do twice as much of work, bring in more revenue, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that the client sees a higher total, you know, cost or whatever, right? So I always tell people that don't be shocked at the rate because we can get it done faster than the other, and we'll get it done right and with quality too as well. So just think about all those type of things. So yeah, I definitely think AI is gonna, the person who can use AI or technology is gonna replace you, right? Because you're gonna be able to, do things faster, make more money. Making more money means that they're gonna be able to invest more into their business too as well at the end of the day, right? And just continue to grow it faster too as well, and just knock you out the water when it really comes down to it. So that's an entrepreneurship. In your job market, it's gonna be the same thing too as well. If an employee can do the work twice as fast and I'm paying you guys the same money, well, I'm going to pay the guy that can get double the amount of work done with technology versus the guy that takes twice as long. Why would I pay that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it comes down to.
That's like basic entrepreneurship 101. No, you're right. And like, I know I'm joking around with ChatGPT, but you're absolutely right. The person can master it. And that's any principle or any profession or any industry as a whole. So, no, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what do you feel like is the biggest obstacle that you face in your everyday life as an entrepreneur?
I feel like I just came to this realization the other day. I'm always a person that people come to with problems, and it's hard because there's just very few people that can solve problems. So it's hard to be able to delegate. I'm a big believer of delegating things. But it's very hard to delegate when people don't have the mindset of I'm going to be a problem solver versus I'm just going to bring other people my problems, right? It's a good skill to have, but that also frustrates me in not just entrepreneurship, just every facet of life, right? I'll have people that want to come and partner with me, and it's like it's not that I don't want to partner, but then I don't want to have to take on another load and be solving your problems, right? I need somebody to be my equal and be able to solve problems. Like if I give you something, you're just gonna be able to figure it out and take it and go versus, hey, I tried figuring this out. Can you do it for me? Right? So I think that's the most frustrating thing that comes with being the problem solver. And that translates into every aspect of life too as well. Because I love to solve problems and it's interesting, but then at the same time, you can only pour so much out of a cup, right? So yeah.
So who do you go to with your problems?
I'm also a vent. I think my sister, she provides really good emotional support. She's really good. We have a really good relationship, and it's been a blessing. Because I know a lot of people don't have those type of relationships with their siblings, and we're about 1.5 years apart. So we used to hate each other when we were little, and had to share a bedroom. She always used to copy off of me and stuff like that. I used to hate her. But now it's like, we went to the Renaissance concert and we're spending the night in a hotel room. It was a sleepover and we take vacations and we're up at night and just talking, whatever. And those are like, great memories and great times to have just the little simple things in life and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that, right? It's not necessarily that I come to her with my problems, but I like to come and be able to vent and then be able to get another perspective on things. She does provide that, right? She's very firm on sticking to who she is. And we know we have difference of opinions too as well in a lot of things. And I think our relationship is good because we respect those difference of opinions. And, we can agree to disagree and very respectfully too as well. Like if we just have two different opinions on things, she'll be like, okay, yeah. And then it'll be like, okay, yeah. And then we just kind of move on. It's not beef or hate or anything like that, right? So
the cozy mood. Shea butter and warm sugar is where it's at. Or maybe you're more in a champagne spritz and roses type mood. Whatever the mood, set it with one of these Febreze Air Mist fragrances today.
Things like that are very important. Everybody, I get it, right? Most men have that in their wives. So I get it, right?
No, and I believe that all entrepreneurs should have a support system. Like,
yeah.
I word it
as
as
support system,
as who solved the problem, but you get what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. Well, that solved my problem. Yeah. Having a support system solves my problem. Yeah. Yeah. That solves a problem that I have. Yeah.
So another important aspect of being an entrepreneur is finding time for you. So what are some things that you do that helps to break you away from the workload? And just really decompress and just really just get that loose up?
That's a good question. I'm actually in a newer season in life. So God has always been my foundation, right? I know everybody talks about this, but he's always been my foundation. Like as a child, didn't really go to church as a child. I just kind of knew of him. But I say all that to say that my grandmother passed away the beginning of last year, right? And for some reason, she was older. I think I'm okay with this. She was like almost 100, so it was her time. It was her time.
Yeah.
But I was kind of inspired to just go back and start rereading the Word again, more or less because, that's the foundation and everything, right? If you have a foundation in faith, you're always going to come back to it. Not that I was, away from it. So in my reading, I look at things in a different perspective. I probably haven't sat down and read the Bible really since like a kid or my 20s or something of that sort. And your mind evolves so much from, a kid versus where I am now. And I say all that to say in terms of like, I really take it back, right? So now I, really observe the Sabbath. And I do that because our Creator took a day off to rest, right? So you ask that question. He does things for a specific reason, right? And I'm not, trying to be overzealous or things of that sort. And that's been really refreshing for me, just literally taking the Sabbath. Some people will call the last day of the week Saturday, or it'll call it, Sunday or whatever, right? I don't like to mince words, right? Just go back to the Word. At the end of the day, God knows where your heart is. And so I'll just take that, right? Some of that will be just self-care, catching up with folks, but just being very intentional of like refilling up my cup on that day. And it's been great. Yeah, it's been great. Just the little things. Sometimes, just reading your Word will provide a lot of information. I found it's been a book now in this season that, there's just gems in the book. It's not, these things aren't written here because it's meant to be strict or for us to do things a certain way. It's just the foundation of life, right? Our commandments are there so we can love each other, right? Yeah. And love our God, right? These laws are there so that, hey, this Creator created us. He knows what's good on this earth. He knows what's bad on this earth. He knows we need rest. So he made a law that said, hey, take one day off and rest. You can't keep going because you're going to burn yourself out. Am I perfect in observing the Sabbath all the time? Probably not. But I do realize that when I do it, it's very fulfilling for me. And sometimes I'm just laying on the bed. I may do a facial. I may go get a massage. I may just work out, sit in the sauna, whatever it may be. Take that time to just do self-care, self-love, love on my God, all that stuff. Yeah.
No, that's good. I think we entrepreneurs, I know, and we grew up on the mentality of hustle hard, right? Hustle hard, but self-care is the new how can I say this? Just being self-aware that you need the rest.
Right.
So shout out to the new age, say like that, taking out time for yourself.
Taking out time for yourself, man. Yeah.
You're burning yourself out.
Cause I'm bad. I'm also trying to get better at that because I'll be going.
Yeah. Right. Not to get churchy on you, but hopefully, we get to, we start adopting this as a new fad, hey, let's take Sabbath off. Let's take a day off where we're just, resting, spending time with loved ones and things of that sort. Like just being intentional there's 6 more days out the week, right? You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to have the weekend. Technically, we're supposed to do an hour the weekend, but some of us work through those weekends and stuff like that. So just being intentional with that. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the 4-day work week. Let's get that going.
4-day work?
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll ever get there.
Yeah, we'll never. Right?
Yeah, we'll never get there. I don't know.
Capitalism won't let us.
Yeah, wishful thinking. There's always going to be something else to do. So that's why I just get very intentional with just take that day off because there's always going to be something else to do. There really will be. Yeah.
I got you. Yeah. So let me ask you, what do you feel like the biggest misconception people have about being an entrepreneur that you personally can speak to?
I think it's solving problems.
You say all that.
Yeah, because I think people think, okay, if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm my own boss, I have flexibility over my own time. Well, your clients are your boss, or your customers are your boss at the end of the day, right? You still are going to have bosses. Employees are you still got to answer to your employees because you need them to get the work done, right? So you got to manage people. Personality is everything too as well. Understanding psychology, especially if you're, working directly with people. So I think the biggest thing is, can you solve a problem, right? And that could be just an overall big problem, but just on a day-to-day, can you solve a problem? Because people are going to come to you with a problem. They want you to solve it. You can't just throw your hands up in the air and be like, I don't know how to do it. And a lot of people do that. They're like, well, I try to look into this. Can you help me out? So, yeah.
No, and as an entrepreneur, you don't have to solve every problem, like Julia said.
You don't, yeah. You can just be like, you put on that 150K, fine. I really had to be like, look, God, I'm just gonna give this to you. There's a couple other things we were going through because we just acquired another firm too as well. So we're just in the trenches, and I was like, look, God, I just remember I got up a couple weeks ago, and I go to my office first thing in the morning, get a cup of coffee going. I might get an hour working. I was like, I just by my head, I was like, look, I gotta get this to you. I don't know how I'm gonna get through it. I need to give it to you. And then I got to the office by 12 o'clock that day. We had the problems figured out, right? Yeah. So sometimes just ask for help, man, and he'll be country Rain said it. He'll be here to save the day.
All right, now.
Yeah.
Now, what else business ventures would Miss Julia like to take on besides just the accounting firm? What else have you wanted to tackle?
I don't believe in being a jack of all trades because your time is limited.
That's good.
You got to understand what your gifts are, and you're going to be more fruitful focusing on your gift versus trying to put your hands in too many different pots, right? So and I'm the type of person too, this is a good question you asked me, but I do get a lot of opportunities thrown towards me. So what I'll do is think about, okay, I have a colleague or a friend or so, they're in this space. So I'll just kind of throw it to them, right? If they need help figuring out, I'm a business advisor, I can happily help. But if it's not for me, it's not for me, right? So I'm in a season where I'm just gonna stick to my lane and do that. And this lane is right now, it's my firm, it's growing the firm, it's going into solving that problem with the accounting shortage. There's so much work to be done there, right? So that's why I don't like to advertise too. I'm a real estate investor. Yeah, I have a couple properties to diversify my money, but that's not really my focus, right? Yeah. So I do see a lot of people getting into that too as well, in terms of clients or just in terms of colleagues. They're trying to put their hands in a lot of different pots and they're very spread thin versus just trying to focus on what their gift is and delivering on that, right? So.
Well, that's good. No, because you're right. I feel like as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to take on everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like I said, we don't have to be a jack of all trades.
No, you don't. Yeah.
Focus on the one thing that you're called to do. Do that.
Do it great, man. You'll be very fruitful in that for sure. Yeah.
So, Message, you are a mentor to so many others.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of your mentors?
Folks will probably not know, but I've always had mentors, right? Teachers in high school, and I've always kept a mentor or more. Like, I couldn't tell you how many mentors I have. I always keep a mentor. I latch on to people readily. I know how to ask for help. You don't get to places, especially on my journey, you don't get to this place without having other mentors and things of that sort. So I can name off a lot of folks. I would definitely say that, like hundreds of folks. I always know folks. And with getting a mentor, a lot of it is just a relationship building because you never know when you might need somebody for something. And you don't always need to look for somebody to somebody in terms of what can I get out of them. I think that's also like a bad thing because you just never know where your blessing might be hiding, right? You never know where God might be hiding your blessing in. So treat everybody with respect and do everything. Try your best to do everything that you do very well because you just never know who might be looking at you. And that's what I've learned with Cleveland, even though, I wasn't originally born or raised. By the time I came here, I was in high school, right? So I came through the high school pipeline and was in and out. And then I went to college or whatever. So, a lot of the folks that went to school together with each other, they don't really know me from that aspect. But what I do know is that there are a lot of older people in Cleveland. I'd be like, yeah, I know your name, right? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know you. They're like, yeah, we heard a lot about you. And I was like, I hope it's good, right? But it has been good. It has been good. But I think they hear a lot about me because I'm just very good about just doing what I do at the best of my abilities, being very helpful to people, solving problems, and just kind of focusing on that for the most part. So yeah, have a lot of mentors, and then I give back. I think that's why I mentor, because I know a lot of people aren't fortunate to have mentors, I've had a lot, so I just give right back. That's it. Yeah, you just give right back. Some people can be selfish with that mentorship too. Like, you know, they get a lot, but then they don't want to give back too as well. So I don't know.
No, listen. And here at the Full Experience, we are very keen on expressing, like you said, the importance of mentorship.
Right.
Like I said, none of us would be here without having great mentors that like to want to speak life to us and be able to, like you said, help build that bridge to where we want to go. And help you through the hurdles. Now, I want to talk about, and once again, you're not a jack of all trades, but you are a person of great influence.
Okay.
You're also a board member for the young professional urban league or whatnot. How did that role come into place, or how did you take on that role? How do you decide to take on that role, and what are your responsibilities in that role?
Yeah, I would say I didn't even know about Urban League until literally post 2020. I feel ashamed to say that, right, as a Black person. But I really didn't know Urban League and what they did. Part of that is just because I just kind of operate in my own bubble sometimes. And I'm not looking to be on a scene or anything like that. Like, I just kind of put my head down and just get things done, right? In 2020, we know there's the George Floyd riots and things of that sort. I've had my experiences as a Black woman. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, right? Went through the school systems in Houston, Texas. I couldn't tell you different than anybody else what exactly systematic racism looked like. So I've always at least tried to be, voiced or use my voice or platform, position, or whatever to make sure that I could serve my group. And again, that comes back to the theme of why I started my firm, right? I'm going to use my talents to be able to bring this back to my group versus housing it into another system, right? Giving my talents to another system. I say all that to say in terms of there were a group of folks that were at my level. I was an executive at Ernst & Young across the country that looked like me, right? And we got together and said, okay, well, with this momentum, we could really use our platforms to make a change, right? And so, in Cleveland, I kind of led the charge in terms of, setting up a D&I diversity advisory group with the support of some of the partners that were there too as well, right? And we, like I said, I do everything with structure. So we came about like, how do we solve this problem, right? We know that there are different pillars that need to be addressed, right? Versus just throwing a word around and saying we're going to do something, right? Like Target saying they're going to, invest in, Black community. Well, what is the actual plan, right? And so I think me and my peers, we kind of recognize that, hey, any company can say we're going to invest or do this or address these issues, but what are your actual plans? And we got in the forefront and said, okay, well, let's help draft some of these plans, right? We're the people that are being impacted, right? This is our community. Let's draft these plans or help draft these plans with our companies to make sure that, the critical things that need to be addressed are addressed. One of the things was working with outside organizations that address all the issues in the Black community, right? That's economics, that's education, that's workforce too as well. And so we looked at a lot of organizations in the community, and Urban League just kept coming up, right? And so, we looked and, they're a big old firm. They're like, okay, well, we can give them money, but we also want to make sure, we're involved in the sense that maybe having board membership. And nobody from our firm had a board position there. So, I'm looking around the room, everybody's like, quiet like a church mouse. Peeing on cotton. And I was like, okay, well, this needs to be done. So I raised my hand, I volunteered to do that. And, I got great support from that firm, that CEO, Marsha Maccabee, she really vetted me out, threw me through the ringer. And so I got inducted into the board. And then, so how do we get involved in young professionals? So I was relatively younger than a lot of the board members. And I was like, okay, well, what assignment can I do that I can add value, right? And we didn't have a young professional chapter. I kind of, as I was learning about Urban League, I was like, oh, we have a young professional auxiliary that's part of Urban League, but our chapter wasn't active. So that was something I raised my hand on and said, hey, I'd love to help revamp this, right? So Marsha got me, Colin, and I got another guy from EY, Kevin Simmons. Colin's our president, Kevin's our vice president. We got together for a breakfast, and here we are today, right? So, my position would be board advisor to the young professionals. I'm on the board of Urban League, currently the assistant treasurer. So I love the Urban League family. I would say it's been a good experience. God puts you in a position to be in certain places at certain time. And like I said, you just never know where your blessing might be hiding or where your assignment might be to as well. So just being very focused and aligned on those things. And I try to be focused on mine. I wouldn't say I've always been, because I've been, life is a journey. Things are up and down, up and down, up and down. There's some, I've been in some pits before. And then, I've been really focused before. And I know that when I'm really focused on something, that's where I thrive the most, for the most part. Yeah.
I love the fact that you recognize that though, because me and you like Julie got it together one night.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a hot mess sometimes. You can ask Tracy, my sister. she's seen it all. I'm a hot mess, but yeah.
No, but
she'll say.
No, but I love the fact you recognize it.
Yeah.
Because everyone puts on this great, not saying facade, but we put on our best faces forward. Mm-hmm. But to recognize the fact that one, life and entrepreneurship is not easy.
No,
and then you conflate two together, it's even more of a mess.
Yeah, it's chaotic. Very much chaotic, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, we talked about the past, talked about the present, and we kind of lose to the future. Mm-hmm. But my question to you is that board member, real estate investor, have your own firm. How does that all connect with your future overall?
It's a hard question, man. You're asking somebody again that just figured out what they want to do in life.
Yeah, right.
And you're asking me if first, I hope I get another 40 years on this earth.
With God,
With God, God's the blessings and things of that sort. But this firm, my plan is to put the next 10 or 15 years into this thing and growing it out, right? So I know I have an assignment there. I'm in a new season of that. What's the outlook after that? I couldn't really tell you. It's kind of like, when I started my career, I stayed at the same firm for, 10, 15 years. A lot of folks were surprised to see me leave, but I just didn't know what the horizon would be, right? I just kind of stuck to it, put my head down, stuck to it, and I looked up, it was 10 years later, and it was time to transition to something else new. I kind of see that right now. Like, I do see an outlook for 10 to 15 years as something that I'm going to be focused on. So I don't necessarily... I could say this or that is going to be, but you know how life works. It's like we can make plans and it's going to change tomorrow anyway. So at least I have something to focus on is what I would say, right? That's my focus for the next 10 to 15 years. And then we'll re-up and assess and see what else after that. After that, if I'm still here, right?
I don't think that you're organized, but you're also free spirit. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I want it to be free, right? I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 10 to 15 years. I don't like having hard parameters on things sometimes. I do like that flexibility because I am a very, I can just be very controlling too. I do recognize that. And I think that's a product of my childhood and things of that sort. But I do like to be very controlling with things. But I like that flip side of there can be some things that I do or I will intentionally plan where there's just a freedom of things, right? And I'll just really get out of what I really do on a day-to-day.
Yeah, come on. Yeah. So that being said, and I know you speak, and I want to next time you come out to speak, I want to be able to see you do your thing. Part two.
Part two?
Yes, thank you, Steve. Look, Steve for the win.
Oh.
Okay? I want to talk about the small business growth playbook you have here and whatnot. Because once again, and this is like something you can read, not even in the afternoon. This is something you can read real fast.
Yeah, it's like what, a 15-minute read or something like that, right? So I like to simplify things. So I know that I'll be up here when I explain things to people, and they'll be like, "Huh? Guys, slow it down, break it down." My sister, she's really helped me refine some of these things because I'll be running real fast, and people will be like, "Okay, this is super complicated. I don't even know what you're talking about." So for our business, we came up with these playbooks. And what are the playbooks, right? What's your problem? How do we solve those, right? So as a small business, right, you see a CPA firm. Okay, I think I know what a CPA is. They got to do my taxes, right? Okay, I'll go to you when you do my taxes. But a lot of small business owners don't understand, like, hey, what a CPA can do for you. Not all CPAs are created the same. Definitely not like me, right? So what does our firm offer outside of just, tax preparation? Because we don't do that. That's kind of the basics, right? And tax advisory or tax planning, right? Saving money on taxes is great, but you save money with the money that you actually make. So let's focus on making the money, right? Yeah. So the small business growth playbook, right, that you're kind of flipping through, we focus on, okay, it's called your growth guide is scaling your business from less than 5 million to 25 plus million, right? And so we just kind of separate it out into the different stages, because that's your problem, right? Your problem is, how do I grow this thing? How do I scale this thing? How do I make this money, right?
Very comprehensive, by the way.
So we just, we break it out in stages. If I kind of throw something at you, that's only 25 million. You're like, okay, well, I'm just trying to get past 50, right? You can't bucket me in the same bucket with these folks that are already making the 25 million or the 5 million even, right? Like, work with me for me to get from 50 to 100 to a million, right? Or 250 first to a million. Then we coast it. We ride in here. Let's get to the 5 million. And so what does that look like? And how do we provide solutions for all of those stages? So our playbooks, for the most part, we got digital, we got hard copies too as well. Our playbooks just kind of go through all the solutions that we provide to your problems, right? Problems that you probably you'll figure out you have them at some point. Hopefully earlier rather than later. And you're not fighting the state of Ohio for 150K.
A new fear unlocked now.
I thought they were after me, man. I was like, I was calling that lady in Columbus, like, what we got to do? I thought it was my problem, but yeah, new fear unlocked. You're right. And there are bigger, some companies have way bigger problems, I would say, in the millions of dollars, even billions. But yeah.
So I have a friend.
Okay.
That hears a podcast, right? As a business, as a podcast, that's something scalable.
Are you the friend? Are you the friend? I have a friend.
I might be.
I look at numbers, right? So, how do you generate money, right? And so, how do we look at? We can pontificate about how you scale this business, right? Number one, how do you make money, right? What are the possible revenue streams of a podcast, right? And then, and how do we start growing those different revenue streams, right? What can grow faster? What grows slower? What takes more time to invest in versus what's higher impact or higher revenue growth? And because revenue growth can also be a mix of things, right? You can have things that are smaller dollar values but can get you to more money faster. You have things that are higher dollar values but they're kind of slower. We have that with our firm too as well. Our consulting work, it's not really, recurring all the time, right? Those are project-based work. In a recession, when people broke, they don't want to be doing consulting. So, we have to mix up our services with things that are recurring, like, financials and tax work too as well, right? So that's part of being strategic. And if I'm using my business as a key example, because again, I'm going through all this journey too as well as an entrepreneur myself. I just actually have the playbook, but now I'm giving you guys the playbooks too, right? So I just have the playbook in here. We just, put it on paper a little bit. So, we practice everything that we preach with our clients in our business format. Now, I'm not going to give you all the sauce and secrets. Absolutely not, because that wouldn't make me competitive in terms of my business, right? I could also do that because I know a lot of people aren't as competitive as me to be able to do what I do. So I could also tell people what I do, and I'm kind of confident that they probably wouldn't execute, but it's a lot of hard work. So,
like she slept one time. I'm not working. She's like, I ain't working.
It's a lot of hard work. Yeah, look, I work long days, long nights. So, if you're not about that life, then and a lot of people are. Yeah, a lot of people are about that life. So I'm not really that phased. So I would say, yeah, right. So.
I heard the woman.
So go ahead, how can you scale a podcast? Yeah, we can talk about this, but you want me to really talk about it on
No.
You want your competitors?
No, that's right. We'll talk about Yep. Not getting none of this. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so everyone knows here at the Post Experience, we like to have our simple questions. I love these questions because, one, they're near and dear to my heart, but each one we ask. Your episode 278 answers. Now I know you're going to be just unique and powerful like the rest of them. And you have been a Houston resident, but come to Cleveland, you pretty much have seen the difference between the two. In your opinion, how do you feel like we change the narrative of Cleveland not being a collaborative place? Because you've seen it firsthand. And you're a master of collaborating with quite a bit of different organizations here.
Yeah, I'm confused because y'all say that, but I haven't experienced that in Cleveland.
Oh,
right?
see?
Even though I'm not like, I think some people don't think I'm part of an inner circle or something like that. I think Cleveland and Houston are actually very similar. Because Houston, Texas is a big state. That's what it is, right? There's a lot of space between. It's a lot of people in there, but there's a lot of space, right? So you still get that small time vibe, right? There's, in Houston, there's like 5 or 6 different pockets of, suburbs, I would say, right, that are the size of your Akron or Cleveland area, of pockets of folks, right? So you still get that small town feeling, I would say. And Cleveland's not really small. I would say midtown feeling, right? So the culture is kind of the same, right? I think one of the most important thing is do things the very best you can. Do be collaborative too as well. Do be helpful in what you do, and opportunities will come your way, right? I've never had a problem kind of doing business in Cleveland, right? I've never had somebody close the door on me. I do what I do very well, right? So you're going to want to work with me. I'm very knowledgeable at what I do. You're going to want to work with me, right? And like I said, I'm very helpful. I'm a mentor. I'm just a genuinely good person, right? And I think maybe in some spaces people can kind of like tell a vibe, right? You can feel vibes off of folks, right? Are you two-faced? Are you, you're genuinely intentional about things, and you can kind of get that vibe or read off of people. And I just try to be genuinely good about what I do because I do believe in karma too as well, right? And I'm a child of God, so I'm not really trying to, do anything differently. So I haven't really seen that, but I have heard over and over again how Cleveland's not collaborative. Or there's like inner circles and stuff like that. I don't know. Do find your group of people, work with them. That's what I would say. You can't work with big groups of people too as well. So if you're trying to be part of a huge group, you're really not going to know those people personally. I mean, like I said, my sister's is my best friend. I've only had one real, best friend really and truly in my life. I have lots of friends and stuff like that, very close friends. Don't get offended when I say this, but you know how it is with me and my sister. So, but I would be stretched thin if I try to have all the friends or I try to be super popular and stuff like that, right? Trying to get things done. I can do it with my group of folks, right? So that's what I would say. But what do you guys? I mean, I'm curious too. Like I just keep my head down. I just mind my business. So what do you guys see?
Listen,
what do you guys see?
The podcast was birthed out of that concept of
Okay.
That idea, because I could say I've seen it firsthand of the silos. I'm saying that word because I think it was the proper word, but I've seen where it was this group over here, this group over here, and because I'm over the group here, I can't really deal with this group over here. And I've seen it firsthand, but this was before the pandemic. After the pandemic, I feel like things have changed, and now we're riding that wave.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
So I would say if you're talking about post-pandemic or pre-pandemic, that's where it all changes and whatnot. But now, like I said, we're in this renaissance, I like to call, where now you have to be collaborative. Yes. Yes. So and now and with us being disruptors, it's like if you ain't part of the Bullet Experience, what are you doing? Because we worked with just about everybody. You see, at this point, the 278, I can say, who we not work with.
Yeah, I like what you guys do here, right? So interviewing Black entrepreneurs in the city, really showcasing them. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
That's unique. Nobody else is doing that, so that's very unique. Or am I overspeaking?
No, listen, we're not gonna get into that, but we're not working.
See, that's what I say. Like I stay out the way. That's the thing, though. You stay out the way. You're not in the mix, so you don't really be having problems like that. I just be.
But like you, Julia, they ain't doing like us though.
Burbox, right?
Yeah, all I said they doing like us. I ain't worried. We ain't worried about it.
You didn't worry about it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you didn't worry about it. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So with that being said, and once again, you have worked with the Urban League, the Young Professional Urban League. Ernst & Young, I didn't know Ernst & Young also or whatnot. So
that was the big firm,
no, I'm about to say big firm.
Yeah, big firm,
These are corporations and organizations you work with. Who would you love to work with in the future? Because in my mind, I believe they're watching you right now. Corporation, entity, organization that you like to work with in the future.
I think there's always going to be opportunities, so I don't probably have a desire to work with certain organizations because I mean, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and it'll come through, right? The right opportunity. I don't believe in chasing things. That's also me too, right? Goes back to what we said at the beginning. Like, I know my purpose is, I know my gift. I just kind of keep following that, right? If I'm trying to focus on doing this or doing that, chasing this, chasing that, trying to keep up with this, trying to keep up with that, you lose sight of what your assignment is, right? And when you focus on your assignment, everything is so clear. I'm not gonna lie. And things are gonna come in as they're meant to come in for the most part. What I would say, you know, this next piece of our business growth, there is an opportunity for my sister to be involved. So I'm looking forward to that, right? I'm very much so. I never thought about that. And so, you know, I'll be her mentor, her teacher, help her grow through some of these things too as well. But I'm looking forward to that, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she'll be able
That's the first.
well, hopefully, yeah, we'll be able to pull in, yeah, it's difficult working with family, right? So, you know.
Would you fire Sid if you had to?
I would. She knows that. But I don't think she, like I said, we have that.
You already started something before it even begins.
No. But see, and this is why I would work with my sister, because I think we could have a constructive conversation where it'll be like, hey, this isn't working out. And she'd be like, yeah, this is not working out. And we'd be like, okay, it's fine. And we, you know what I'm saying? We have a really mature relationship, right? Where, hey, if it doesn't work out, you know, she'll tell me or I'll tell her, we'll just come to agreement. And I think when two people are just genuine, they care for each other, number one, right? They want to see the best for each other. You know, they're very supportive of each other regardless. And they don't have malintent for each other or hidden agendas and all this other stuff. You can do those type of things, right? If it doesn't work out, it just means it wasn't meant to be, right? But I'm going to, you know, give it my best in terms of helping to teach and things of that sort. I know she's going to give her best too as well. And we'll get there. That's about that. Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, that's the key.
If I fire Michelle, she'd probably shoot me. She loves me.
Oh,
You
okay.
better not fire her. That wouldn't be wise.
That wouldn't be wise, yeah.
Well, I digress.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, Julia, we have been having such a phenomenal time with you, by the way. Just hearing your incredible story, hearing about your business. I mean, not everybody can say that they started in a gallon firm.
Come on now.
So, I mean, you're definitely doing dope things out here, you know, changing the lives of so many people and problem solving, which is the
problem
key.
Solving, yeah.
So, when it comes to your legacy, we know that it is going to be one for the ages.
Phenomenal.
So, what would you like the legacy to be for you, Julia Dean, and what would you like the legacy to be for SUIG?
Man, that's a big one. See, I'm humble, so I don't think about things like legacy. But you know, you think about what you're building, but you don't think about legacy in a sense of like, okay, how would I be remembered? I'm fine if I am forgotten or something of that sort.
What?
I think I think I'm more focused on what contribution am I leaving, right? I do want to leave this earth a better place. And so I think about that in an everyday sense, right? What am I doing today that when I'm on my deathbed, I think maybe to answer your question, when I'm on my deathbed, am I going to regret any of the things I did? Am I going to look back and say, did I wish I did this or didn't do this? I think about that more than anything else. So I don't know if I, you know, think out too far ahead or overthink what legacy would be, because we could say we could be this, we could be that. And then that couldn't happen, right? So I try to just contribute. So that's probably why I mentor, right? Or I help to build things, or I help to solve problems, because I feel like when I'm on my deathbed, you know, hey, I helped solve this problem. Or hey, I helped, you know, bring this person along, right? And kind of help them find their purpose or help them grow or get them to a position where they would have ordinarily not gotten to. Those are like the little things that I want to, you know, be satisfied with as I'm, you know, about to give up the ghost or something of that sort. Because I've seen older people too as well. I've been around a lot of older people when I was younger, and I just, you know, I could tell from the older people that just lived a fulfilling life and they had game to give, and they gave me a lot of game. That's why I'm here. They would just pass on the game, right? And they just did something that felt better, and they were on their beds in a nursing home, and these were like the last things that they wanted to make sure got done before they left, right? Folks that, you know, the names would never be remembered, but they were satisfied with being able to like have a conversation with a younger person and tell them, hey, if I could do it again, I would do it this way. So now you have this information to kind of avoid all these mistakes that I made before. So I think that's where I kind of get that thought process. Like when I'm on my deathbed, do I want to regret anything, or do I want to be proud of the life that I live? Yeah.
All right, now this is the last question, and some people find it to be the most challenging, but I know you got this. So when it comes to someone that is watching, someone that's listening, I mean, your story has been, like I said, such an inspiration to us all. So what would you like for someone to be able to take 3 takeaways from tonight's interview today?
Focus, right? We talked about focusing on your gift, right?
Yeah.
Just be ultra focused on your gift. And align on what's for you, right? Because you're going to be fruitful in that avenue too as well. Don't try to compare yourself to other people with that other takeaway, right? Like, it's your own journey. You came here by yourself, you're going to leave here by yourself. So try to do the best in whatever you're doing, and just focus on being the best version of you. That's really it. You're your own competitor. A third gem. Can I come up with a third gem? Maybe some game old people gave me, because everybody's gonna look at me and think I'm like super young. Drink your water, smile. What else did that lady tell me? Drink your water, smile, exercise at least 4 days a week or something of that sort. And then, always go to bed happy or something like that. And moisturize your face. That's what she gave me. Those are the 5 things I got on my little paper that lady wrote down on her little deathbed, and I take it with me all the time. But yeah, that's it.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah, so that third takeaway is take some game from old people, because they got lots to give. They got wisdom. Don't overlook it. Yeah.
It's a good one.
That's real good. I'm almost with my face tonight. I'm like, what's with my face tonight?
Moisturize that face. Yeah, because I'm not good. I'm not good at doing that. But every single time, there's this old lady I used to wait tables, and her name was Violet. So sometimes my older customers would like write notes to me, and I have this one note. My last day of serving, I always kept that note in my little pocket thing, and I held on to it. I threw away a lot of stuff, because I was like, okay, well, this is a journey I'm done with. I'm going into my career. And I just kept that one piece of paper, and I framed it in my office a couple of years ago, because I was just always holding on to it. I was like, these were good gems, and I like looking at it, but I'll probably have to take a picture and send it over.
No, yeah.
But it's just a reminder of all the game old people will give you. And don't take it for granted, because all that stuff, I'm looking at it 15 or so years later. I'm like, man, all this stuff is right.
Yeah. I can't wait to know that someone will have for yours, like, Ms. Dean gave me this note.
Yeah, she gave me this to this day. Yeah.
Okay, and the most important question of the whole interview, madam, where can people book you? Where can they learn more about you? Where can they schedule you for appointment? All those good things.
Yeah. So our website. Are you gonna drop it in the podcast link? Yeah.
Listen, as you're watching.
So it's very, very simple. www.sugco.com. So you'll find out more about the business. We just published the growth playbook, so we'll be uploading those to the website for folks to download too for free.
Perfect.
There's a lot of gems on the website. So there's we've got a newsletter for some of those folks that think they can do the DIY. It's got some gems on there, but again, I wouldn't advise folks to do DIY stuff. But a lot of good information, things that can resonate with small business owners for the most part. I'm very accessible. So if you hit me up in a DM, I'm going to answer, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on LinkedIn. I try not to ignore messages unless it's like spam or something like that. I will tell you that. I don't have a problem with just blocking or deleting with spam or just inappropriate messages. But I'm very accessible. You can just hit me up on a DM or something of that sort. So, yeah.
So listen, guys, as you guys watch the episode, it will be right there in the show notes. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Do your business a favor and book your consultation, your appointment, and all the good things with SUIG on Florida and with Ms. Dean. Okay. We have got to do a part 2. We have got to come down. We got to see you in action. We got to see you speak. We got to do all those things.
Okay.
And I don't pitch Steve. We're gonna make a reality show. If you and sister working together, we're gonna get some cameras. We're gonna film that joint.
Oh, reality show?
Yeah, turn a reality show.
You don't want a reality show out of me. It'll be the good, the bad, the chaotic. Yeah. It'll be randomly waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's a great title, by the way. Great title, by the way.
What?
The bad, the chaotic.
Yeah, the good, the bad, chaotic.
I like it.
Yeah.
We'll make
like
money.
We'll make money, yeah. It'll be good, bad, chaotic. And then seeing the vision come to life.
That's right. Miss Dean, we appreciate you because it's been a long time coming. Me and you been saying we gotta get you on the podcast, and
thanks for doing it.
No, absolutely, no, and thank you for being patient because once again, you like, all right, y'all playing with me, y'all playing.
Yeah, I got me here in tax season, so we
Yeah.
Y'all got me out.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we talk about. Like, make sure you give me around this time because it's over with.
Yeah, I'll be very transparent. I'm gonna be in and out, so yeah.
No, thank you once again.
Appreciate you.
Guys, we got Mr. Bills. So funny enough, you're gonna see Miss Dean on the date game.
Oh, okay. Don't make a fool out of me.
No, we're not at all. That's not what we do here. No balloons are being popped. We're not doing. It's very classy.
I'll walk off and pop the balloons. Yeah, I would.
We're not doing that. We're not doing any of that. What we're doing, if you are old enough, or go to YouTube right now and type in the dating game, we're taking one bachelor, 3 bachelorettes, 1 bachelorette, and 3 bachelors. And the premise is that they're either entrepreneurs or they understand dating entrepreneurs because they understand the late nights that you have to work and understand that, I might not be able to devote a lot of my time, but when we do get together, it's quality time. So that's why we're doing this because we know entrepreneurs obviously well, but we understand that everyone needs love, right? So that's why what we're doing, and Ms. Dean will be a contestant. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned for that.
Okay.
And make sure you get the tickets because they are selling fast, okay? And I need you to get a ticket because right now we got the best deal of all time. They are 2 for 1. We want you to bring a friend. We want you to bring your mate. If maybe you're married, you're like, I'm gonna do something different. Well, come on through and see these eligible bachelors. I am throwing words tonight. My bad. You gotta get what I'm saying. It was on February 16th at 3 p.m. at the Fort Beach Show, our second home. So do me a favor, get your tickets today. Over here.
That's right. And guys, make sure you guys tune into my podcast, Beauty Told. Again. I know, he be quick with it, though.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, so Beauty Told is been changed. As you guys can see, it's had a makeover. The collaboration with Bree from Overflow Studios has been phenomenal. And I'm sure y'all can tell the difference. But still give y'all the same good conversations. I'm having great guests on. I have to have you on too, girl. And we are taking relationship topics and we are expounding on it. And the overall goal is that if you can get a positive change from our stories told, we know it's a story well told on Beauty Told. And I cannot wait to see you guys there. I love y'all. Thank you for all the subscribers so far.
Yes, guys, yes. And if you rock with us, the Pull Experience, stop playing with me. Go over to Beauty Told and subscribe today, right now. Stop, pause this, subscribe, come back over. Do that right now. Guys, I need you to do me a favor. March 1st, we are going to have Podcast of 102 Media Mastery Playbook. I got it right, Steve.
You did get it.
Yes, my sensei and my Bree. Yes, they're going to be teaching you how to to edit your podcast, to visually make it stunning, how to make reels and edits of your podcast to make it a viral sensation and take your podcast to the next level. So do me a favor, get the tickets for that. That is for March 1st at Creative Space, 6 p.m. Do it now. Do it. Don't want to miss it. Lastly, guys, episode 278, Road to 300. It is coming sooner than you think and whatnot. And I don't want to mitigate the fact that we are creating Cleveland in Black history. Okay? And I say that because, as you can see from our roster, it's not too many of other cultures because I want to celebrate us. We have created a platform that celebrates us and by us and for us. And for a reason for that, because there's not too many platforms that dedicate to just us and celebrate us, and to give a platform to those individuals who normally won't have a platform in the first place. And we're taking time out to celebrate those individuals who are taking time out to pursue their purpose, perfect their craft, and then impact others. So we want to thank you for once again subscribing, liking, sharing. Because right now, 19.8 thousand subscribers, 8.2 million views, and that is crazy. Because we're from Cleveland, Ohio. We're Midwest city doing numbers. And it's crazy. They want to hear a great story like Julia's. Okay? And we can't thank y'all enough. So do me a favor. Right where you're watching this episode in the show notes, there are amazing entrepreneurs who are part of this team who are helping make this production great. Do me a favor, patronize one of these great businesses. Follow, subscribe, buy a bottle of wine. Okay? And we can't thank you guys enough. So this is episode 278, Road 300. We see y'all next time. Peace.